but I might forego that tonight. Thank you all for being here. This is a collaboration of J Street and Karen. We're very honored to have Dror Moreh here, who's the filmmaker, as you all know, to be able to discuss a little bit with us and answer some of the many questions that I'm sure many of us have. Just a brief word of introduction. Dror is an Israeli cinematographer. This film was nominated for Best Feature Documentary in the Academy Awards, a graduate of Tel Aviv University with a degree in film, and I would say now probably among the more controversial figures in Israel and across the world. And we're very grateful to you for being here with us tonight and for bringing us this film.
Thank you.
So the way that this will work, we will just spend a little bit of time tonight. I know there's a lot to say, and after a good movie, I don't like to talk for a good hour or so. So putting me up here is a little bit mean, but I know that people have questions, and we want to create the space for a bit of a discussion. So you all have cards at your seats. If you don't, maybe raise your hand, and we'll be able to bring you some more. I want to ask that you just take a couple of minutes and think about what question you'd like to ask Dror. And then we'll bring up the questions, and while you're thinking, I have a few things that I'd like to start off the conversation with. So there are questions both about the making of the film itself and your role and what drove you to this, and then about the substance and questions of morality and power and powerlessness. I'm going to start with the easy questions. What makes an Israeli filmmaker decide to make a film like this? And how did you get this kind of access to these stories that have not been heard and told in this way before?
What made me do this movie is I'm an Israeli, and as such, I love Israel very much. I think it could be the best place in the world to live, but it's definitely not. And a lot has to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the fact that it dominates almost, in my point of view, every aspect of living in Israel. Even if we see or understand that or comprehend that, and even if not, most of the Israelis do not see the ramification and the influence of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict on their life due to the genius of some of the politicians in Israel. And I have kids. When I started, at 1967, I was 6 years old. My father hugged me before he went to the war. And at 1973, the same way, he went to the war, he hugged me and said, I hope that you will not be you have to take care of the family now. You are the man. I was 12 years old then. 1982, the first Lebanon war, I was a soldier, a young soldier. I didn't fight. I wasn't in a combatant unit, but a lot of my friends died, my classmates at that war. And the 4th of November is my birthday, and it was the day that Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. I was in the square that evening, and I told it in the opening of the J Street convention. I remember that evening speaking to now my ex-wife, who was my wife then, and telling her that for the first time I feel that my two kids have a small ray of hope that they will not have to maybe live in Israel that I lived or serve in the army. Two of them, they grew up since then, now in the army, both of them. The reality did not change, regrettably. And I thought of what could be the better of if I want to make an impact or to change something in how the Israelis and also the world sees the conflict. You have to come from within the system. This is my belief. You cannot come from outside of the system. And when you put, in a way, a virus in the system cannot resist that virus. And in a way, to bring the people that were most responsible for maintaining the occupation, for understanding the Palestinian conflict, are the Shin Bet, are the head of Shin Bet. And if 6 heads of the Israeli Secret Service, the Shin Bet, are coming and saying, listen, we have been there, we have done that, enough. It's not working, it's devastating us from within. We have to stop that, we have to go for a 2-state solution. And there is a partner in the other side. I don't know who, and that's why I am a controversial figure, I don't know who can resist that as someone who doesn't understand what they're speaking about. And this is the reason why the movie created such a big, or created a big response in Israel. I feel very secure with the movie, you know. I have 6 heads of the Israeli Secret Service saying those words, not me. Go argue with them. Go tell them that they don't understand about what they speak, or they haven't been there, or they don't understand the Palestinian, or they don't understand the Prime Minister. They were there. So, in a way, I wanted to create something that cannot be disputed. That the conclusion of that will not be disputed. Although that we are as Jews, whereas 2 Jews, there is always 5 opinions. So, but it happened. It created the kind of debate and the kind of transformation which I hope that will even more than that. How did I manage to persuade them to come? Listen, you don't persuade those kind of people. They are master in persuading you, not persuading them. I feel, I didn't ask them, you know, when someone says at that kind of level, says, yes, I'm going to come and speak, you don't ask him, why are you coming? I think that I appealed to their professional point of view. I wanted their professional point of view. This is one thing. And I think that the most important thing is that they felt that the window of opportunity for a 2-state solution is closing, and it's closing very, very fast. Soon, we will not be able, even if we will want, we will not be able to create that solution. I'm not sure that we haven't moved beyond the point of no return.
So one of the things that comes across so clearly, and a number of them make this argument that every success generates more terrorists and more acts of terror. And I remember, you know, I was in Israel at the time of the Ayash assassination, and one of my friends said in the Beit Midrash where we were studying, he said the day that Ayash was killed, he said, Jewish blood will spill as a result of this. And then there's several people here tonight who have a couple of friends who were killed in the subsequent bus bombings that came immediately afterward. I have not seen as powerfully portrayed as you did here the conundrum, the very serious conundrum of needing to respond to terror and specifically to real and active threats, and at the same time knowing that when you do respond, it will not eradicate the problem, but will likely create more problem. Can you just share a little bit about how, if making this film and hearing from them and pulling all of this extraordinary footage shaped your perception of what of this kind of response and this sort of inevitable circle that we find ourselves in? Do you have a perspective on that now?
Definitely, my next film is going to be here, and it's going to deal with that. Going to deal with that kind of perception that you can eliminate terror by only by force. And it's a view shared also by what I see in America, is what is happening now in America, all the targeted assassination and drone attacks and kidnapping, that happening as we speak all the time. And you know, 2 or 3 years ago, Osama bin Laden was killed. Did it make America more safe? Did it bring, does the Americans feel that they finished the war on terror? I'm not sure, I don't think so. And well, look, what happened to me during making the film is that I became much more leftist than I was before. This is one thing. And the second thing is understanding how much the future could have been changed and how many missed opportunities were there along the lines to change the future. Look, but it is a problem. Look, the terrorists are there. And Yahya Ayash was not a kindergarten caretaker. He was a vicious, horrible terrorist who killed hundreds of people in suicide attacks that basically devastated the peace process between 1993 and 1994 until coming to the assassination of Rabin as a result of what they said, those kind of terrorist attacks. Of course, you know, so having said that, those people are fighting terror, and terror is a horrible thing. I can only tell you that during the second Intifada, I was 2001, 2002. Walking in the street of Tel Aviv was not an easy job to do. It was a frightening experience. I remember I was doing another movie then, walking in Jerusalem. Jerusalem was like a ghost town. Nobody was walking in the streets. The restaurant was closed because every other day there was a suicide attack. And for us, it was reality. It was day-to-day life. So when your life is threatened at that level, you don't really care about morality. You want it to stop. You don't really argue how they will do that as long as it will be stopped. But I think the main issue, and that's the main issue in the film also, I think, tactic versus strategy. Tactically, you know, this is what they say always. Israel was always managed to suppress terror and to win tactically. But strategically, never the Prime Minister kind of saw or thought 30 years ahead or 20 years ahead. Where do they want to see? How will this conflict end? And I can give only a small example to that. In the last 5 years, when Bibi Netanyahu is the Prime Minister, 2009, 2010, until today, there was a data that was released that until 2 months ago, a year and a half, no Israeli was killed from terrorist attack from the West Bank due to the very successful work of the Palestinian Authority security forces and the Israeli. And during that time, Israel did nothing to move towards this two-state solution. On the contrary, Bibi Netanyahu, the biggest hero against terrorism, went to an operation against the Hamas in Gaza. The Hamas fired rockets to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, which never happened before. Never in the history, rockets were fired from Gaza to Jerusalem. And Bibi Netanyahu negotiated with Hamas, allowed the leader of Hamas to come back to Gaza as a hero. While doing that, Abu Mazen, who is saying that he doesn't want to come to Tzfat only as a tourist, recognized two-state solution, wants to go back to the 67 borders, he's been humiliated, been treated as someone who is against peace, doesn't get anything. His security forces are doing anything they can in order to prevent terror, and Israel treats him that way. And that's shameful, that is crime in my point of view, because that time that we lost, we will regret that now when we will not have the time to move for the solution or to the core issues that needs to be discussed. And those 4 years which enabled the Israeli government to move forward were not really used to do that.
So I want to ask you, and this directly relates to your answer about powerlessness and power. And it seems to me that this is one of the great struggles with contemporary Israel now. On one hand, Israel is an incredibly powerful country, economically, technologically, medically, and of course militarily, and it's something that the state celebrates. And you know, I always laugh when I see American tourists walking around with IDF hats on, and there's a celebration in the American Jewish community, and certainly in Israel, of Israel's military strength. And yet, what you point out so powerful, what these voices articulate really is the struggle with power, because at the same time that there's this incredible military force, there's an utter sense of powerlessness also that I think pervades the culture and society. And you know, Yuval Diskin says, and so poignantly, what's so unnatural is the power that you have, right? This sort of eternal Jewish discomfort with being able to just pinpoint a target on the ground and end a human being's life. And I felt this tension throughout the film between are we powerful or are we ultimately powerless? And when you see masses and masses of people running through the streets who want to kill Jews if only given the opportunity to do so, it only reinforces, I think, the sense of powerlessness. I heard Ami Ayalon speak once. He said, when a Jew is killed in a pikua, in a terrorist attack, we don't count our dead 1, 2, 3. We count our dead 6,000,001, 6,000,002, 6,000,003. That we have this sort of sense of our own loss and our own vulnerability that we carry with us everywhere, even when we're the ones with the F-16s. So my question is, are we powerful or are we powerless?
Well, Israel is a very strong, we are powerful, Israel is powerful, one of the strongest armies in the world, definitely. And do we feel safe? No, we don't. Why don't we feel safe? Look, I think that the Holocaust is the basic trauma of every Jew wherever he is. Definitely in Israel, and I think all around the world. The basic concept is it will never happen again to us, no matter what. We will prevent that. Whoever comes to kill us, we will kill him first and hand for. More than that. There will never come a time where a Jew will be haunted like a cockroach and nobody will do anything. Never again. By saying that, Israel, this is what defines Israel. I think that when Bibi Netanyahu very meticulously uses the Holocaust
and now
as
here's their song Stormer.
That's nice. Dolby Digital.
This year, when I heard it was about witches and coven, I loved that idea. Coven of witches, coven of women.